It was a cold, quiet night in the city. Streetlights blinked softly, shops were closing, people were rushing home. But in one small yellow taxi, something felt different. The driver, Arif, sat alone behind the wheel. He looked tired. His eyes were heavy, but not from sleep. It was something else, something deeper. He opened the ride app on his phone. Ping. A ride request appeared. Pickup from Gulshan Market. Drop to Hillview. Arif stared at the screen and pressed cancel. Ping. Another request. Airport pickup. Cancel. The ride. Requests kept coming. Arif canceled each one. Why are you doing this, Arif? His own voice whispered inside his head, but he said nothing. He just sat there, watching the night through the windshield. The radio crackled. Arif, bye. Why are you canceling everything? Asked the familiar voice from the dispatcher. He didn't reply. Instead, he turned off the radio. Then, he put the car in drive and slowly started moving. No ride, no passenger, just driving. It felt like his heart was looking for something, or someone, far away. On a quiet road, a girl stood under a flickering streetlight. She had no umbrella. Her clothes were soaked. Her hands were shaken. She was trying to call a cab, but none came. Her name was Maya. Maya looked down at her phone. Battery, 3%. She had been standing there for 40 minutes. Cars passed. No one stopped. She didn't cry. Not anymore. Her tears had run out long ago. She whispered to herself, maybe, tonight is the night. And just then, the yellow taxi appeared. It didn't stop at first. Arif drove past her slowly, but something made him look in the rearview mirror. He saw the girl's eyes. Empty, lost, just like someone he used to know. He hit the brakes. For a moment, Arif didn't move. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. He closed his eyes. Then he reversed the car, slowly, carefully, and stopped. Right in front of her. The window rolled down. Where do you want to go? He asked gently. She looked at him. Nowhere. She said, just can we drive? He looked confused for a second. You don't have a destination? She shook her head. No. There was a pause. Arif stared at her for a few seconds. Then, he unlocked the door. Get in. Inside the car, silence filled the space. The heater was on, and warm air slowly dried Maya's wet clothes. She sat quietly in the back seat. Her eyes stared out the window, but her mind was far away. Arif didn't ask questions. He didn't speak. He just drove through the sleeping city. Gas stations. Closed. Shops. Dark. Even the tea stalls were packing up, but the taxi kept moving. More ride requests started coming again. Ping. Ping. Arif didn't even look this time. Maya noticed. You're not accepting any rides, she said softly. Arif replied, not tonight. She looked at him in the mirror. His face was calm, but his eyes looked like they were hiding a storm. You're just driving. For me, he nodded. Why? He didn't answer right away. Because, he finally said, I think tonight, you needed someone. She said nothing, but inside her heart shook. For the next hour they drove across old parts of the city. Maya slowly began to speak. She didn't share everything, not yet. But she asked about the city, the roads, and a little about Arif. Do you always drive at night? She asked. Mostly, he replied. Nights are quieter. People talk less, but their eyes tell more. She smiled faintly. That's true. She looked outside. I used to love the city at night, but now it feels empty. Arif took a turn toward a road near the river. Sometimes emptiness isn't outside, he said softly. Sometimes it's inside us. Maya felt something stir in her chest, like a wall cracking. Just a little. They stopped near a small bridge. The moon was above them, calm and full. I used to come here as a child, Maya whispered. With my mom. Arif didn't look back. He just listened. She smiled sadly. She's gone now. Everything's gone now. Silence again. Then Arif asked, would you like some tea? Maya was surprised at this hour. There's a stall ahead that stays open late. Quiet place, no crowd. She nodded as he drove again. Maya leaned her head against the window. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. Meanwhile, back at the control center, the dispatcher looked at Arif's canceled trips on the screen. This is not like him, he said. What's going on tonight? But Arif didn't care what the assistant said. He was on a different mission. He had found someone who didn't need a ride. She needed something else. She needed to be seen. She needed to be heard. She needed to feel human again. And somehow so did he. The small tea stall was at the edge of the city. No big lights. No loud people. Just a quiet place with 2 plastic chairs and a tired man pouring tea into steel cups. Arif pulled the taxi beside it. Come, he said gently. Maya looked unsure. I don't have any money. Arif smiled. I didn't ask for money. She hesitated, then stepped out. The wind was cold, but the smell of fresh tea warmed her heart for a moment. They sat on the chairs. The stall owner poured 2 cups and gave a small nod to Arif, like they had known each other for years. No words were needed. Maya took the cup with both hands. It was hot, comforting. She closed her eyes as the steam touched her face. You live nearby? Arif asked. Maya shook her head. I don't live anywhere anymore. Arif didn't react. He just sipped his tea and waited. I was staying with a friend, Maya continued. But today, she told me to leave. She said I was a burden. Arif looked down. Maya laughed sadly. Funny, right? One day you're best friends, next day you're unwanted, he said softly. That's not funny, that's cruel. There was a pause. I didn't even pack properly, Maya whispered. I just left, I had nowhere to go. Arif listened in silence. The tea between them was getting cold, but the moment was slowly warming. Back in the taxi, Maya sat in the front seat now. She wasn't shivering anymore, but her voice still carried pain. Why did you really stop for me? She asked. Arif took a deep breath. There are moments, he said, when you see someone, and you just know they shouldn't be alone tonight. Maya looked at him, her eyes wet. How did you know? He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. They drove again. The city was still asleep, but something about the journey felt alive. Every street they passed looked different, like they were no longer just roads but part of a bigger story. Arif took a turn toward the old museum road. Trees lined both sides. The streetlights formed golden tunnels of light. Did you ever want to disappear? Maya suddenly asked. Arif tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Yes, he said after a long pause. A long time ago, she turned to him. What stopped you? He smiled sadly. Someone else disappeared before I could. His voice cracked slightly. Maya didn't ask more. She could tell that this wasn't the time for questions. Suddenly, Maya's phone vibrated. She looked at it. Battery 1%, missed calls. 0 messages. 0. No one had called her. No one had texted. No one had even noticed she was gone. She placed the phone on the dashboard and turned it off. What happens? She asked. When no one cares. Arif replied. Then a stranger has to care. Maya looked at him. Are you that stranger? He nodded. For tonight, yes. The taxi stopped again, this time at a small park, locked from the front. Arif knew a back gate. They walked through. There was a bench under a large banyan tree. The moonlight fell on it like a soft blanket. Sat again. Maya closed her eyes. I forgot what peace felt like. Arif looked at her. Then remember it now. She took a deep breath. The night was still. No horns, no phones, just wind and peace. Suddenly she spoke again. Do you think broken people can be fixed? Arif looked up at the sky. I think. Broken people don't need fixing. They need someone to sit with them in the dark, until they're ready to stand again. Tears fell from Maya's eyes, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall, because someone was finally watching. It was almost 3 a.m. They walked back to the taxi. Maya turned to Arif. Can we drive a little longer? He smiled. As long as you need. She got in. The car started, and the journey continued. Not to a place, but to something deeper. The taxi rolled slowly through the sleeping city. Most of the roads were empty now. The traffic lights kept changing, but there were no cars, just silence, and 2 strangers, quietly driving together. Maya was watching the sky from the passenger seat. The stars were hiding behind thin clouds, but she kept looking. She whispered, When I was small, I used to think stars could hear me. Arif glanced at her, and now, she smiled weakly. Now I think. Even they stopped listening. Ping, another, ride request. Arif didn't even blink. Cancel. The app sent another. And another. Cancel. The screen glowed again and again. But Arif rejected every ride. At the control center, the dispatcher noticed. This is the 8th canceled trip, he said, confused. Arif never does this. He's one of our best. Another driver called him through the radio. Arif by Sab. Thikai, why are you ignoring the system? No reply. Back in the taxi, Arif turned off the screen. Then he switched off his phone. Maya watched him quietly. You really don't care about the money tonight? He shook his head. Not tonight. Why? He paused. Because some nights are not for earning. Some nights are for saving. They drove past the bus station. A group of homeless people slept on old blankets beside the road. Maya stared at them. Life is unfair, she said. Yes, Arif replied. But it still gives small moments of kindness. You just have to notice them. She didn't say anything, but inside her heart, something began to soften. After a few minutes of silence, Maya asked, Do you always talk like this? Arif smiled. Only when someone's truly listening. She looked out the window again. My father used to say deep things too, she said, but I stopped listening to him. And then, one day, he stopped talking to me. Arif didn't ask. Why? He just let the silence speak, Maya continued, voice lower now. He died last year. We hadn't talked in months. I missed the last call he ever made. A sharp pain passed through her face. She looked away, hiding her eyes. Arif kept driving, but his hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. They reached a bridge that crossed the river. The water below was dark, quiet, and still. Arif slowed down. Do you want to stop here for a bit? He asked. She nodded. They parked, got out. The cold wind hit them, but neither complained. Maya walked to the railing. She looked down at the water. It looked endless, like it could swallow everything. She whispered. This was the place. Arif stood beside her. The place. She nodded. I came here once before. Weeks ago, I thought about jumping. He didn't speak, she continued. I stood here for 2 hours. No one stopped. No one noticed. Arif looked at her. But you didn't jump. She turned to him. Something told me to wait. I don't know what. Maybe it was fear. Maybe hope. said softly. Or maybe it was the part of you that still wanted to live. Her eyes filled with tears. I think that part is still small, she said. Even a small flame, he replied, can light up a very dark room. They sat on the edge of the footpath. No one else was there, just the sound of water. And the city breathing softly in the distance. Maya asked, why do you care so much? You don't even know me. Arif looked at her carefully. You remind me of someone, he said. Who? My daughter? Her eyes widened. I didn't know you had a daughter. He nodded slowly. I did. She ran away years ago. I haven't seen her since. Maya's voice dropped. What happened? She felt like no one understood her, he said. She thought no one cared. Maybe I didn't show her enough love. Maybe I was too late. Maya's eyes locked with his. You still think about her every day, he whispered. They sat in silence again. Two broken hearts, two strangers. One long night. Maya suddenly said, what if she's out there like me, waiting for someone like you? Arif's eyes glistened. I hope, he said, someone out there cancels every fare, just to sit with her like this. Maya gently placed her hand on his. Maybe tonight, she said, you saved someone else's daughter. His eyes filled, but he didn't look away. The night grew colder, but the space between them felt warmer now. Something had changed. Not everything was healed, but something was heard. Something was shared. They sat quietly by the river. The water moved, slowly beneath the bridge. The city felt far away. It was just them now, two broken stories crossing each other in the middle of one silent night. Maya stared ahead, her arms wrapped around herself. I haven't told anyone this, she whispered. Not even my closest friend. Aref didn't rush her, he just nodded gently. Maya looked down at the ground. I used to work in a nice office, she said. I wore good clothes, smiled a lot, laughed with everyone. Her voice broke. But it was all fake. Arif waited. You see, she continued, I was trying to be strong after my mother died. I didn't want to show weakness, but inside, I was falling apart. Her fingers trembled as she spoke. I stopped eating. I couldn't sleep. At work, I made mistakes. My boss warned me. Then he let me go. Arif lowered his eyes. I called friends, Maya said, but they stopped answering. One even told me to stop playing the victim. She looked at Arif, her voice shaking. You know what hurts the most? He looked up. When you're drowning, and people just watch. Arif breathed slowly. His heart ached for her. Not because she was crying, but because he knew that kind of silence. That kind of loneliness. Maya wiped her tears. I sold my phone once just to pay rent, she said. I skipped meals. I smiled in front of neighbors. But when the door closed, I would cry into my pillow, like a child. She tried to laugh. It's crazy, right? A grown woman, crying like a kid. Aref softly replied, pain doesn't care about age. That one sentence made Maya go quiet. Then she whispered, you're right. A dog barked in the distance. The streetlight above them flickered, but still. Arif and Maya stayed in that moment, open, raw, real. Maya looked at him. How did you become like this? So calm? So patient? He smiled a little. I wasn't always. He pointed to his chest. There's a storm here too, but I've learned how to drive through it. She gave a small smile. I wish I had someone like you in my life earlier, Arif said. Maybe you didn't meet me earlier, because tonight is the night you needed me most. They stood up and walked back to the taxi. The air felt lighter now, even though nothing had changed in the world, but something had changed in Maya. She opened the car door and paused. Then she said, can I ask you something strange? Arif nodded. I wasn't here tonight. Would you still be driving alone? He replied, yes, and still canceling every ride. He thought for a moment, then said, yes. She looked curious. Why? Arif started the engine and said quietly, because even before you entered this car, I felt someone needed me tonight. As they drove again, Maya looked out the window. The city looked less cold now, less scary. Aref turned a corner and passed an old bookshop. Maya smiled. My mom used to bring me there. Every weekend, she'd buy me a book even when she couldn't afford tea. Arif glanced at her gently. You miss her? Every second, Maya said. She was the only one who believed in me. Tears formed again, and I feel like I let her down. Arif pulled over slowly. He turned to her. Look at me. She did. You didn't let her down. Life did. The world did, but you're still here. That means you're stronger than all of them. Maya couldn't stop crying now, but it wasn't the kind of crying that breaks you. It was the kind that begins to heal. She leaned back in her seat, wiped her face, and took a deep breath. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, she said, but tonight, I feel seen. Arif replied, that's all some of us need. Just one night. One person. They drove again. No plan. No destination. Just two people. Refusing to give up. The taxi moved slowly through empty streets. Street after street. No words were spoken, but the silence wasn't heavy anymore. Maya looked out the window. Her face calm, now soft, thoughtful. Then she turned to Arif and asked something she had been holding in her heart since the night began. Why did you really stop for me? Arif didn't answer right away. He focused on the road, eyes deep in memory. Then finally, he said, because you reminded me of someone. They reached a quiet spot near a park. The trees stood still. The wind whispered through the leaves. Arif parked the car. He turned off the engine, then looked straight ahead. My daughter's name was Alina, he said quietly. She was 20. Just like you. Maya's eyes widened. You had a daughter? He nodded. Yes. She used to talk too much. Always dreaming. Always full of questions. His lips curved in a soft smile. But one day, the dreams started dying. He leaned back in his seat. She failed her exam. Her friends left her, her mother and I. We didn't see her pain. We kept telling her to be strong, but we never asked how she felt. His voice cracked. One night, she left home. No note. No message. Just gone. Maya's breath caught in her throat. We searched everywhere, Aref said. Police, hospitals, train stations, but nothing. He paused. That was 5 years ago. Maya placed a hand on her chest. I'm so sorry, she said gently. Arif looked down. You know the worst part, he asked. I was driving my taxi that night, just like now, and maybe, just maybe, she was out there, standing on the street, corner waiting. His eyes filled, but I didn't stop. He turned to Maya. That's why, when I saw you tonight, standing there in the rain, I knew I couldn't drive past again. Maya's heart broke for him. She saw the pain in his eyes, so deep, so quiet, so old. You stopped, not just for me, she said. You stopped, for her too. Arif nodded slowly. Yes, maybe this is my second chance. The air inside the taxi was still. Maya reached into her small bag and pulled out a photo, and old one, faded and torn. This is my mother, she said. She was my only home. Arif looked at the photo with respect. She would be proud of you, he said. Maya looked down. I hope so, because I don't feel proud of myself. Arif shook his head. Sometimes surviving is the bravest thing we do. Suddenly, a loud message alert rang from Arif's dashboard. He ignored it. Another ride request came in. High fare. Urgent pickup. He clicked cancel. Maya looked at him. You've lost money tonight because of me. Arif smiled softly. No, I have found something more important. She was quiet for a second. Thank you, she said, for everything. He looked at her and replied, don't thank me yet. The night isn't over. They drove again. No map, no plan. Just 2 lives, slowly healing. Arif asked, do you want to see something special? Maya nodded. Yes. He turned the car toward the hills on the edge of the city. The road was narrow. Trees covered both sides, but the moonlight guided them. Finally, they reached the top of a hill. Arif parked the car and pointed ahead. Come, he said. They stepped out in front of them. The whole city lay below, light sparkling like stars on the ground. Maya gasped. It's beautiful, Arif smiled. This was Alina's favorite place. She called it the city of lights from heaven. Maya walked forward, took a deep breath, and whispered, maybe she's still watching from somewhere. Arif didn't speak. He just closed his eyes for a moment, and smiled. That night too, broken souls shared something powerful. Loss, pain, hope, and something else. Understanding. The hilltop was peaceful below. The city lights danced like stars fallen to the earth. A soft breeze moved through the trees. The air felt clean, like it had been waiting for this moment. Maya sat on the edge of the stone bench. Arms around her knees, she looked at the view and said, I never knew this place existed. Arif smiled. Most people don't. But when I feel lost, I come here. She looked at him. Do you still feel lost? Arif paused. Sometimes, but less tonight. They sat there for a while. No one spoke, but the silence was warm, like 2 people who didn't need to explain anymore. Maya took a deep breath. I didn't want to live today, she said, voice steady. I was ready to just disappear. Arif didn't look shocked. He just said, I know. She turned to him. How? Because I've seen that look before. In the mirror. Maya looked away. Everyone kept telling me, be strong, think positive, don't give up. But no one sat with me when I was breaking. Arif replied, that's the problem. Most people want to fix you, but they don't want to sit with your pain. She nodded slowly. I think tonight was the first time I didn't feel invisible. He looked at her. That's because you're not. The sky was beginning to change color. A light silver started appearing on the edge of the horizon. Is it morning already? Maya asked. Arif checked his watch. Almost 5 inches de medio. Maya smiled softly. I've never seen a sunrise like this before. He said, stay a little longer, it gets even better. They watched in silence as the first golden rays broke over. The city. Birds began to sing. The wind became warmer, and something in Maya's heart opened. I was afraid of the morning, she said, because it meant another hard day. Arif replied, but this morning is not hard. It's honest. She smiled through her tears. Maybe it's the first morning that's giving me a reason to start again. Back in the taxi, Maya sat differently now, not curled up, not hiding. She sat with her back straight, eyes bright, voice calm. They drove toward the inner city slowly, passing places that once made Maya feel small. Now, they didn't. Arif asked, if you had one wish right now, what would it be? She thought for a second. Not a house, not money, just someone to talk to when it gets dark again. Arif nodded. That's not too much to ask. She looked at him and said, maybe I already found that tonight. He didn't say anything, but he smiled. They stopped at a roadside tea stall. The man behind the counter smiled sleepily. Long night? Arif nodded. Long, but worth it. They both drank quiet cups of tea as the city began to wake up. Motorbikes passed. Shops opened their shutters, but inside that taxi, the world still felt still. Maya looked at Arif and asked, "Do you think your daughter is still out there somewhere?" He looked into his cup. "I don't know," he said softly. "But if someone helped her the way I helped you, maybe she survived too." Maya reached out and gently touched his hand. "If she's anything like you," she said, "she's strong." Arif whispered, "I hope so." The bond between them wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet. Real. Real, built in one night, but strong enough to last a lifetime. Two people, different stories, same pain, but now, shared strength. The city was waking up, shops were unlocking, horns began to echo. The early sun touched rooftops, painting everything in gold. Inside the taxi, Maya sat quietly, her hands rested in her lap. Her eyes watched the morning like it was something new, like she was seeing it for the first time. She turned to Arif. "Can you drop me anywhere near Seder?" she asked. He looked at her gently. "Of course, but I have a better idea." Maya looked confused. "What idea?" Arif smiled. "There's a women's shelter near Garden Road. Safe place. They help with jobs, training, even a place to stay for a few weeks." Her face changed. "You already planned this?" He nodded. "I called someone while you were watching the sunrise," he said. "I didn't want to say anything unless you were ready." Maya blinked quickly. "But why would you do that for me?" Arif's voice was calm and kind. "Because someone should have done it for my daughter." Tears rose in her eyes again. But this time, they didn't carry the weight of loneliness. They carried something else, hope. She covered her mouth and looked away. "I don't even know what to say." Arif parked the taxi by a small park. "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "Just don't give up now. Not after all this." Maya looked at him, eyes full. She whispered, "I won't." They sat in the car for another moment. Quiet, still. Then Arif opened the glove compartment and pulled out a small, folded paper. He handed it to her. "What's this?" Maya asked. "My number," he said. "In case you need a ride again, or just someone to talk to." She held the paper like it was something precious. "I don't know if I can ever repay you," she said softly. Arif looked straight ahead. "You already did," he whispered. They reached the shelter. A woman from the staff waited outside. She smiled and waved at Maya. Maya turned to Arif one last time. "Will I see you again?" she asked. He gave a gentle smile. "Only if you promise to keep living." She nodded. "I promise." She opened the door, then paused. Before stepping out, she said just one word, "Baba." Arif's heart stopped. He looked at her. Stunned, tears filled his eyes. She smiled, closed the door behind her, and walked toward the shelter. Arif sat in the car for a long time after that. He didn't move. His hands were still. His eyes stared. At the place where she had walked away, he wiped his face slowly, not with sadness, but with peace. Something, deep inside him, had finally healed. Outside, the day had fully begun. Children ran to school, vendors pushed carts, the city was alive again, and for the first time in 5 years, so was Arif's heart. The morning was bright now. Arif's yellow taxi rolled slowly through the city once more. This time, he wasn't rushing. He wasn't checking his app. He wasn't chasing money. He was just driving. The radio buzzed again. "Arif, bye. Are you back online? You missed a lot of rides last night." He smiled and replied for the first time in hours. "I was on the most important ride of my life." The dispatcher laughed. "Really? Big tip." Arif looked out the window. "No, just a big reason." And he turned the radio off again. Across the city, Maya sat on a clean bed in the shelter. The room was small, but it was safe. There was a soft blanket, a hot breakfast, and for the first time in a long time, peace. She looked at the paper Arif had given her, his number. She placed it carefully inside her small bag, next to her mother's old photo. Then she looked in the mirror. She didn't look lost anymore. She looked alive. Later that week, Maya began her first training class, a simple job, a fresh start. She stood in front of the building holding a paper cup of tea, and suddenly, she smiled. Not because everything was fixed, but because she had finally stopped falling. In another part of the city, Arif picked up an old man from the hospital. He smiled kindly, helped him into the car, and offered him water. His phone pinged with a message. He opened it. It was a simple text from an unknown number. "Still keeping my promise. Thank you, Baba." Mamarov stared at it for a long time. Then, he put the phone close to his heart, and closed his eyes. That night, Arif parked his taxi near the river again. The same bridge. The same place Maya once stood. He stood there alone now. Watching the water, he spoke softly into the wind. "If you're still out there, Alina, just know, tonight, I was the father someone needed. I hope someone was there for you too." Tear rolled down his cheek, but this time, it didn't carry pain, it carried peace. And somewhere in the same city, a girl who once thought of ending it all, was now walking toward her future. Two strangers, one taxi ride, and a night that saved them both. Sometimes the world doesn't need heroes, just someone who cares enough to stop.